Okay, so we're approaching the pole. I'm going to do some basic climbing techniques. So, as always, I pass the pole belt around the pole. Check the choking circle to make sure we've got at least by that 4 or 5 o'clock and 7 and 8 o'clock position on our belt. Make sure that the wear sleeve, where possible, we give it a little bit of an adjust, is protecting our belt slightly. And again, looking at this is my position to be when I'm stopped. There, I check the distance I am from the pole. If I think I'm too far away, what I like to do is take a little bit of weight off on the handle and then tighten up the belt as I come through. If I take a little bit of my weight, it makes it easier because I'm not trying to pull my whole body weight up through the device. And also the same applies when I want to slacken off or loosen it slightly. I take a little bit of weight on there and then I just press the handle, press on here and release slightly. So tighten up, loosen off, tighten up. Like every time I tighten, I give myself a little shake of the hips to basically equalise the length of the rope back through here, because we're only adjusting the length on one side. We have a little bit of equalisation to make sure we're all going up. So when I'm going to come to climbing, again, spikes in, I'm going to climb up to my belt, I'm going to come up to an obstacle, I'm going to set my spikes in nicely. Every time I come to a stop, I'm going to apply my safety. So I take my secondary, pass it round the pole, making sure I'm as high as I can possibly get when I choke it. I'm going to bring myself in slightly, get myself comfortable, maybe spike up just a little bit more, I'll lift up my safety and choke it onto the pole. You notice I've moved it ever so slightly off to the right so it's out of my way, so I can do what I need to do here. Now when it comes to passing an obstacle, I can't just take my belt off and climb, so that's when I use my work positioning lanyard. Take my work positioner, I adjust it to make sure it's nice and long, so it gives me plenty of scope to pass it around the pole, above the obstacle, and I clip back to myself. Again, I'm just going to adjust the wear sleeve to make sure it's nice in position. I then take my weight onto my work positioning lanyard. This makes my pole belt then slightly looser. I help matters by loosening it even more, which means it's nice and slack. That means that when I come to tighten it later or reattach it, it makes my life a lot easier. All I do now is just unclip the belt. I pass it up through my work positioning lanyard. That way my adjusters don't conflict with each other. Pass around the obstacle and clip back in to the belt above the obstacle and above my work positioning lanyard. I then tighten up the belt. I'm going to transfer my weight onto this so I can at this point spike up ever so slightly, take my weight onto the choking belt, which allows me to loosen off my work positioning belt, like so, and then safely remove my work positioning belt. Now I no longer need my safety, so I can remove my safety. Making sure it's nice and comfortable, and then I can climb up on my way. I might want to just adjust out slightly for when I'm climbing, which allows me to open the belt slightly more as I'm moving up. So carefully passing the obstacle, try not to spike the danger plate. We move up to our next obstacle. Coming down is just the same. Spike in the danger plate. So when we're coming down below an obstacle, again I get myself into a comfortable spot. As always, safety goes on first. Pass my belt around. Slide the wear sleeve round. Make life a little bit easier for myself. choke my safety in place, take my work positioning lanyard, pass it below the obstacle, flip it back to myself, tightening it up, so now I've got the weight in my work position lanyard, my pole belt is loose, slacking it off a little bit more, passing it down through my work positioning lanyard, and at this point I can step down ever so slightly, make life easier for myself, put my pole belt back in place, tighten it back up. You notice I take my weight on the pole just as I'm tightening up. This is looser. My work position lanyard can come undone. Now I can remove my safety. And I can keep climbing down the pole. I do find that when I'm climbing down the pole, I like to slacken off the belt ever so slightly, which allows me, as I'm climbing, to open up the belt like so.